I have a show called Speechless that's made because I've had people try to tell me that I'm not allowed to have an opinion on things because it's not the mainstream opinion. Well, maybe I'm not the biggest fan of Trump. I have every right to have that opinion, and you have every right to have yours. However, I'm still open to a possible Trump presidency. You, Josh, on the other hand, he's not even very high on your list. And I want to talk about that. And then I want to talk about how you came from supporting Trump to not supporting Trump anymore. But start off, why is Trump not very high on your list in terms of your 2024 candidates?
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, and I think it's a great point that you're making, that I was a pretty active Trump supporter in 2020, through 2016 as well. I campaigned in 2020. I got assaulted for him in 2020, for God's sake. I mean, this did happen on campus. I was very proud to vote for him. But quickly after the 2020 election, I started going, okay, well, maybe we should look at other options. He's getting kind of old. His age is a big thing, and that's one of my biggest things. He's 77. He's getting up there, and so I said, you know what? Let's start looking at other guys. And I really, really liked. It's a good one. I really, really liked DeSantis and what he was doing down in Florida, and so pretty quickly, I mean, I think on one of our podcast episodes, even I said, you know what? DeSantis might be the new guy. I think he might be a really strong candidate. Got my first DeSantis shirt in February of 2021. I mean, it was very quickly I switched. My big thing, and the thing that really, there's a couple things. Well, number one is age of Trump. That is a huge thing. I'm running on, you need to be under a certain age. I think 65 is kind of my number. I have to stick to my guns.
Why 65?
I think 65 is when, I think if you're old enough to get Social Security, you shouldn't be running this country. And I just generally think that's a sure thing. So if we up that age to 70, sure, make it 70, but it has to be in line. If you are eligible for Social Security, you are not able to run this country. I think after that age, you kind of start to lose a real look at modern issues. You're getting too far away. You're kind of focused on an older version of the country, and I know sounds ironic coming from a history teacher, but you need to be able to move on as well. I know it sounds very ironic. But I think that's one thing. The second thing was, and I get a lot of slack for this, I genuinely think Donald Trump lost in 2020. I do not think he won. I think he lost.
But do you think that, what about potential voter fraud? What about the lies told by the media? Like what?
I think it was rigged by the media. I think the media gave him an unfair shape. And I think Democrats were able to much more effectively do things like, change election laws so that they can do things like that ballot harvesting. But by every definition that they did, it wasn't illegal at the time. I know it's being deemed illegal afterwards. It doesn't matter. At the time, it wasn't illegal. Do I think that they were stuffing ballot boxes with fake ballots? No, I don't. I generally don't. I've seen no evidence of it. I don't think it happened. I think Trump lost. I think a lot of people voted against Trump, not for Biden, too. I think that was a huge thing, especially younger people. And so Trump has spent the last 2 years now just whining about it and not giving a solution. And that is my problem. If he is saying the election was stolen from me in 2020, he has to say, this is how I'm going to avoid it next year. And he hasn't. He just keeps whining. That is a huge thing to me. He has no action. Looking back now, I see some of the stuff that he did isn't exactly what it said he was going to do. He said he was, I think right away, I think we can look at this. He said he ran on locking up Hillary Clinton, indicting Hillary Clinton, locking her up. The minute he was elected, he changed his mind and said, I'm not going to lock her up. So he immediately lied to his voters. His whole base the whole thing was lock her up. He didn't do that. Things like the First Step Act, which I think in theory were really great, but now we're seeing is letting out some fairly dangerous people. Maybe it needs to be readjusted. He worked with the swamp too much. He was just doing everything he said he wasn't going to do. And that really, in hindsight, I'm looking back and going, I don't know. He might not be my guy.
I don't know, to give some pushback on that, because it's my job to give pushback on that. Because I agree with you on some points, but it is my job to push back a little bit. First off, a lot of people would claim when it came to some of the swamp stuff that it's like, he can't kick out Mitch McConnell from the Senate. That's kind of the job of the voters. Same with people like Nancy Pelosi from her role as speaker and being in Congress. When it came to people like Fauci and Birx, maybe that's a little bit different, but the swamp can't be entirely eradicated. He did, while it's not the exact wall that he had planned on originally, he did get more wall built and had it pretty secured for and he did actually secure the border a lot through different executive orders and such. He did have tax cuts that really helped the economy. Like he did, while he might have not fulfilled all of his promises, as you say, and might have even gone against in some of them, he did fulfill some. And the First Step Act was something that he did, but okay, maybe it didn't have the effect that we wanted from it, but it was something that he promised and he did it.
Yeah,
It was
and
prison reform, so
sure. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he didn't do anything right. He did a lot of great things. I mean, that's why I voted for him in 2020. I was proud to vote for him. The economy is in a much better place. I mean, I remember taking joyrides in my car because gas was $1.30 and I could. I didn't care.
mm-hmm.
I'm not saying he did nothing right. I'm just saying at this point, I vastly see the negatives outweighing the positives. And I have to be realistic with myself and with the country and say, I don't think he can win the general election. I think he can win a primary, but the general voters have already spoken and they voted against him. And I think that is a huge thing. And Fauci and Birx, he handed this country over to Fauci during COVID. I mean, Fauci numerous times said, we went in, we said, Mr. Trump, we need to do this. And Trump said this too. Mr. President, we need to do this. And he did it. He just didn't question it. He did it. He whatever they said. He gave no pushback. When Brian Kemp was going to open up Georgia early, he criticized him right away. Oh, it's too early. It's too early. But then eventually he kind of changed tune a little bit because he saw it was more popular with the voters to go against what Fauci was saying. Then we have DeSantis, who opens up Florida, and he's praising him. Oh, free state of Florida. It's so great. It's so great. It's so great. All of a sudden, he's the best governor in the world. Now all of a sudden, he's worse than Cuomo. He's just trying to gaslight people now at this point to a ridiculous extent.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more. So I hear what you're saying about Trump. Why is DeSantis at your top then?
Mm-hmm.
And I have one more question. We got about 5 minutes, so just try to time it out a little bit. But why is DeSantis at your top then?
So he's at my top because he has been consistently proven to be one of the best leaders that this country has seen in the last 20 or so years. He made Florida, which was a swing state by every metric for the last 2 decades, a solid red state. And that was due to good governance. He has the most people that are influxing into a state because of his good governance. I'm talking things like anti-riot bills. BLM didn't happen in Florida because when they did, he said, we're locking you up and we're putting you in jail if you riot. You can protest, but you can't riot. The minute you riot, we're putting you in jail. Giving all these different bonuses to police to make sure that they are incentivized to work hard. Education reform is a huge one for me. Saying that, hey, you can't teach the gender ideology to a second grader is amazing. That, hey, you can't transition a kid against their parents' permission in schools. Hey, you can't have actual pornographic books in schools. That's not allowed. Things like that make it amazing. The economy in Florida is booming. Tourism's booming. Everything in Florida is booming. And I think if he took that and put it to the entire country, he could, change this country for the better in every way.
So why do you think that because there's some people that think that, okay, well, like Trump has proven himself. And I have a few more questions. I want to make sure I get to all of them, but Trump is like, he's still there and he seems to be polling really well. Why doesn't DeSantis just wait till 2028? What do you have to say to me?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think because it's the mindset of that is people say, well, Trump is owed another term. He's not owed anything. We don't owe him anything. He has to be elected.
So you're saying that stems a lot from your belief that the 2020 election was not stolen?
Yes, people say he's not owed anything. He has to be elected.
Okay.
If the voters need to speak, he needs to give. If Trump really wants to come in and try to be this king or this I'm the only person, that's not how this works. People need to step in. I think he's stepping in now because he sees it's more beneficial to step in now. I think DeSantis sees there's a fear that if Trump is the nominee, he will lose the general. And I think that's a very realistic fear. I think it's a totally understandable fear. So why not throw your hat in the ring now and just try?
I got you. And then so finally, in wrapping up this portion of this segment, at least, do you notice a difference between the Trump running in 2016 to 2020 to 2024? And what would those differences be?
Yeah, in 2016, he was I'm anti-establishment. I'm going to be the one who can save this country. I'm the one who we need it, And he was very much, they want you, I'm in the way, and I will stand in the way, and I'm proud to stand in the way. And that was great. That was very appealing to a lot of people, including me. Goes into office, a lot of that kind of goes out the window by 2020. It's a lot of, hey, look what I did. I'm so great. And the country was in a great place. Cool. He does that. He loses. Now he's standing in the way of, they want me. I need you to fall on your sword for me. And, oh, I want to do this, but he can't explain why he didn't do it in his 4 years. It's this weird dynamic. He almost has this God complex about him at this point now. And we always knew he had a big ego, and that was okay because it was always funny. Now it's the point of he's just ranting and raving that I'm the only one that can fix this, and if you don't agree with me, you're a traitor. He's just so switched his mindset from I'm saving the country to I'm looking out for myself at this point.
Yeah, and so we have about a little less than a minute left, and I think this one could be pretty quick. It's a question from the chat, from a good buddy David. He watches the show a lot. If Trump becomes the front runner, will you still vote Republican?
Yeah, reluctantly I vote for Trump because he's going to be better than any Democrat that can ever come up.
Awesome. Well,